It's going to be tremendous. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about it because if you guys don't know me, my name is Tanner Gears. I'm co-founder of AccessAbility Officer and Dart Suite. I'm CEO of both of those organizations, and Accessibility Officer is a digital accessibility company first, right? But we also have a significant emphasis on our educational arm, which is our vocational rehabilitation job training program that you guys might be interested in, called the CAT program. And essentially, that's where we certify people like me, people who are totally blind or otherwise severely disabled, reliant on assistive technology. So we train them, certify them in digital accessibility, and then we give people a job, right? Because that's what we deserve. We deserve opportunities to work, to prove ourselves, to break barriers and stigmas by showing what we can do in the workplace and what it means to be blind, right? That we might do things differently, but we get it done. So who am I? Again, I'm Tanner Gears. I have been in digital accessibility now for about 10 years. Got started selling digital accessibility job boards, uh, and I built up a couple different agencies in digital accessibility. I've hired, was very fortunate to be in the nonprofit space at my first, uh, at the first consultancy that I was building, where we really focused on blind and visually impaired user testers. That was at my blind spot. We almost sold that consultancy to American Foundation for the Blind. That deal fell through, but AFB pulled me over, and I started building up their digital accessibility consultancy. I got out of the nonprofit game and into the for-profit game, and started with UsableNet. They're a big software heavy, sales heavy organization, and I learned a ton there. They're really great people. They care, they get it. UsableNet is an awesome company. But after learning a ton there, in late 21, really 2022, Heather Burns, my co-founder, and I really started to build Accessibility Officer. And if anybody's Google searching that, that's Accessability Officer, two A's in that. And that really is a play on words because I want to help other companies access the abilities of people like me. And I also want to help people like me access their own ability in the workplace. So we started building up this digital accessibility consultancy, getting some clients, which was great. And it was very important for us to, thanks, Rada. Got the link there in the chat. Thanks to Rada. It was very important for us to hire blind. Our vision at Accessibility Officers is that the U.S. disabled unemployment rate should be the same as the U.S. unemployment rate. And I'm blind, right? So which means we have a strong affinity for hiring blind. We just put out a promotional branding video that, the first words were, "I'm biased, we're biased, we prefer to hire blind." And I am proud to say that. I'm proud that most of our technical team, over 75%, are people just like me, relying on assistive technology, who are sight impaired, low vision, or totally blind, and use screen reading or screen magnification software to manage this work and to do their work. So it's really important to me. So again, we couldn't source systematically talent who happen to be blind to do this work. They didn't have the skills, the ability, the knowledge, the capability to do this technical work, this technical skill at the level in which it needed to be done. It's tough, it's a lot, and it's really ambiguous. If you looked at the W3C or the WCAG guidelines, or you've tried Trusted Tester, to attempt those certifications, it's not for the faint of hearted. It is confusing. It is ambiguous. Sometimes it seems hopeless. So we built this training program to certify talent with disabilities, severely disabled individuals like myself. And that's been great. We piloted through our relationships, especially in New York. We piloted the CAT program as a vocational rehabilitation job training program in New York with Helen Keller National Center. That was really successful. And we've blown it out across the country. We've done work with over 60 clients in about 12 states now. We're continuing to expand those states, and we're in about 40 states. We have the capacity to serve about 40 states right now across the United States. at accessibilityofficer.com/vocational-rehabilitation. If you click on the vocational rehabilitation link at the top of the page, that'll take you to the accessible map where we've got all those states listed out. If your counselors are interested in learning more about the program, that's where you want to send them to, that vocational rehabilitation page. That'll give them the overview of the program and everything they need. And then you'll want to have them start a conversation with us, with me. They can do that on the link on the page, or the emails will come later. But so we started the CAT program, and things have been tremendous. Things have been absolutely tremendous. And but that's the background. And today, what we want to talk about with this Ask Me Anything live event is really, how do you guys get into digital accessibility, right? What does it take to this field, like recognize, break, share the goal for you, how to leverage digital accessibility right now, because it's so hot as a career opportunity to get your first shot and then ultimately transition into a lateral position. So I talked about this. If you saw the BPN Empowerment Wednesday webinar that I was on earlier this week, I talked about that a little bit then, and I'm going to talk about that today as well. And I'm just so passionate about people with disabilities getting jobs, especially people that are blind, because when I held that paper check for the first time in May or June of 2006, just 2 years after I lost my sight, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to make it. It was such an insignificant amount of money. It was just a couple $100s. Right. But it let me know that this is going to be possible. And financial independence, the ability to put food on the table, a roof over your head, clothes on your back, take care of your family, get them to the right schools, to buy medicines and get doctors and healthcare. Like, financial independence is the path to freedom. And in my opinion, our philosophy is that this is the path on how we actually change stigmas about people who are blind and impaired, and how we start to change perceptions about blindness and what we can do in employment. Okay, because our identities as a society in the United States, our identities are so wrapped up in how we make money, what you do. It's either the first or the second question we ask people when we're just getting to know them, right? Like, hey, how's it going? Where are you from? And then, what do you do? Yeah, what do you do? Referring to, what do you do for employment? What do you do for a job? What do you do for money? Identities as a society are so wrapped up in this that our philosophy is that if we get more people who are blind, trained, certified, technically capable, next to other people who don't have a disability with the same certifications, the same kind of credentials, and doing the work as good as or better than the people without disabilities, that's how we start to change perspectives, right? Like, oh, wow, this blind person does my job. Actually, they do it better. They do some things way better than me. Maybe I do this a little bit better. I can move faster because I have sight, but wow, like, they find more issues than me. They provide better context. They know what it means to be disabled and can speak to that authentically. They're a better tester than me, net. That's how we change perspectives, right? And then we want to rinse and repeat, right? We're starting with digital accessibility. We will rinse and repeat this model in other industries. So whether it's HR or it's cyber or it's professional IT support or technical support, if it's bookkeeping and accounting, if it's legal, et cetera, all these different industries, HR, this is how we're going to change perspectives. This is what we're going to do at Accessibility Officer. This is what we're going to do to help people who are blind or visually impaired get trained, get certified, and get into the careers that are meaningful, that are fulfilling, that inspire you to do more, be more, become more, right? To unharness, to unleash your inner greatness. That's what we want to do. So we started that CAT program that was really successful. And then, circling it back around to CSUN. So CSUN, the California State University of Northridge, just put on their 40th anniversary for their digital accessibility conference. And there's a lot of companies and universities and government agencies and financial institutions, companies that are into digital accessibility. They come, they bring their developers, they bring their project managers, they bring their heads of accessibility. They all come to CSUN. And also at CSUN is a job fair. There's other companies looking for people who are blind or visually impaired or otherwise disabled, looking to hire them. So if you're struggling with employment, I highly recommend you get to next year's CSUN event. It is expensive, but worth it if you're willing to do what it takes to get a job. Disability In, right, also has a job fair. NFB National Conference has a job fair. I highly recommend that. Disability In's a great place to connect with other large companies doing digital accessibility, interested in hiring people like us. And then Enabling in DC. So Disability In, I believe, is in Dallas this year. The NFB National Conference will be down in New Orleans. Enabling's in Washington, D.C. CSUN was in Anaheim, and we are going to be at all of those events this year. Promoting what we're doing with the CAT program, promoting what we're doing with Accessibility Officer, and promoting what we're doing at Dart Suite. And Dart Suite just launched before CSUN. So we were there connecting with other businesses and trying to identify what their needs are, what their gaps are, what are they trying to do, what are their goals, understanding what really moves them as a business, what are their priorities, so we can then align ourselves accordingly, right? So we can put Dart Suite in the right light. We can put the CAT program in the right light, Accessibility Officer, Digital Accessibility Services in the right light, the right position to capitalize on those opportunities. And let me tell you something, CSUN was an incredible opportunity for us. We're going to have tremendous business development opportunities because of CSUN, strategic partnership opportunities from CSUN. And one of the big takeaways, though, was developers. Developers today are struggling to find and source digital accessibility testers. They have this work, they need compliance support, but they don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. And that's one of the reasons exactly why we built Dart Suite. Dart Suite is our digital accessibility report and test suite, DART Suite, SUITE, Dart Suite, digital accessibility report and test suite. If you go to dartsuite.com, everybody here who's, yep, can we put the Dart Suite link in the chat, please, Rhoda? Yeah, if you go to dartsuite.com or dartsuite.com/sign up, everybody here can get a free account and start using this tool absolutely for free. We highly recommend you doing that. And one of the reasons why developers were really interested in Dart Suite was the ability to source our testers, certified testers who are technically certified in digital accessibility, who happen to have a disability, that they can source these testers on demand, for a couple hours at a time. And that we wanted to make that a possibility for a couple of reasons. One is we're tired of companies having to pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for an accessibility audit, especially when more accessibility audits mean more people like jobs, right? People in digital accessibility, people with disabilities, the more some companies, small mom and pops, mid-market businesses, maybe they can't afford $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for an audit when they maybe only paid $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for their entire website. So that doesn't make sense for them. The dollars don't make sense. So we wanted to provide a lower cost alternative, an ability to source people with disabilities, technically trained, technically certified in digital accessibility, how to source them more readily and on demand so we can achieve our vision, right? The U.S. disabled unemployment rate should be the same as the U.S. unemployment rate, with a huge asterisk, like we love blind people. So that is the high level overview of that. But so CSUN, I was blown away when we were starting to talk with these developers about the things that we provide and the capabilities that Dart Suite has. And everybody would light up when they were like, wow, we can source testers that are trained and certified on demand. And so we've been very blessed and fortunate to be riding that wave. Most of the work that we provide, though, is to local governments. So state agencies, city of XYZ, that's our bread and butter. That's where we have found the most traction, the most business opportunities. We also work with online retailers and software companies and, even job boards and nonprofits. But our bread and butter, probably 80% of our revenue for the digital accessibility services, is from government agencies at a local level. I mentioned earlier that I'm at a federal contracting conference right now, and so excited about the federal opportunities, much bigger contracts, which to me boils down to more jobs for people who are blind or visually impaired that want to do digital accessibility. So CSUN was super duper exciting. And then Rada, I think there was after CSUN, we wanted to talk about something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's digital accessibility opportunities and then the
How
CAT
to get in the
program.
field.
Yeah,
Okay,
how to get in the
yes.
field.
So here's how to get in the field. Traditionally, this is how it works. Like, I'm a person without a disability. I'm doing QA, quality assurance testing. I'm engineering. I'm a front end or back end or full stack engineer, or I'm a project manager. And we have to now comply with these standards, these accessibility standards under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, these Section 508. Which is a federal regulation under what is it, the 1973, the Rehabilitation Act. Oh yeah. So how do you get into digital accessibility? So normally you're already working at a company, and then you get voluntold, not volunteered, voluntold. Hey, you have to do this now. We have to meet these regulations. Right now with local governments, the new final ruling on Title II is getting everybody to the iron is hot on digital accessibility. We are so incredibly blessed that we keep winning contracts. We just won the city of South San Francisco. We've got the city of Arvada. We've got stuff all over New York State. And we're really focusing on these states where the local laws supersede the federal laws, because we live in a republic. Each state has to abide by their own laws as well as federal laws. So even the evisceration of what's happening with employees and departments and everything at the federal level, the Department of Education, it sucks and it's worrisome. But when you understand civics, when you understand how laws work in the United States, if you're like me, I'm not worried at all. Like, we're growing. Our business is growing, and all we do is disability workforce development. All we do is digital accessibility, and our business is growing. Quadrenniums, 4-year cycles, like presidential cycles, quadrenniums are temporary. Accessibility is forever. And that's our commitment. Right. And so we are hustling hard, getting new opportunities all the time. When we were at CSUN, I was so incredibly blessed that we won the city of South San Francisco contract. And guess what? My old boss at UsableNet shot me an email congratulating me. Other people on the floor at CSUN that were there, other companies that went after that contract, they shot me an email, congratulated me, right? The work that we're doing, the disability focus, the people orientation, the what we're doing and how we're winning lets us know that we're on the right path, that people are responding to this. And I just feel so blessed. I'm so incredibly lucky to have the opportunity to create these opportunities for you guys to get into digital accessibility. So you get voluntold. You're not a person with a disability. You get voluntold to do this, and you have to figure it out. And then that's when people like that reach out to companies like us to get help. Maybe they go to DQ University, or they go to the IAAP to get certified, or they start doing YouTube searches and figuring out how to make their PDFs accessible. And then they realize how hard it is. And the actual transfer of knowledge or information into actual skill and ability to do the job is way, way, way more difficult than just reading a book or a body of knowledge or an online video course. It's way more difficult than that. It's way more ambiguous than that. And that's why the CAT program is so successful. That's why we got Mary Beth and Ellie on here to talk about that and answer technical questions. They're going to be my technical experts for the call. And it's really awesome that we're able to have an instructor-led program. So the CAT program it's basically like an upper division collegiate, graduate college level course. It's insanely difficult. It's very difficult. You got to be great at your assistive technology, strong screen reader skills, strong general computer skills, because it goes fast. And every week we have the lecture and the workshop, 2 classes. They're 90 minutes each, and then a one-on-one with the lead instructor and a one-on-one with an apprentice, a mentor who's come through the program. So that's 5 hours of meetings every week. And then there's the online curriculum and content. So you got to read, a lot of reading. There's exercises and homework and discussion posts and practice exams and all these different things to help create knowledge transfer. And across those 14 weeks, at the end of it, what happens is you learn how to be a digital accessibility tester. You literally learn the skill, ability, and knowledge to test, manually test, and with automation, test, report, and guide the remediation of accessibility compliance against WCAG 2.2 AA. WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.2, that's the version of the standard. AA, so there's A, AA, and AAA. That is the level of compliance. A being the lowest level, AA being the standard, and AAA being almost impossible. And God bless the W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, a lot of acronyms. If you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're in HR, if you're in vocational rehabilitation, you know there's a lot of acronyms in these different fields. Digital accessibility is no different. Once you know the language, what the acronyms mean, it's easy. It sounds technical, it sounds complex, but people coming through our program are not they don't have technical backgrounds, right? If you have a technical background, great, it's going to be easier for you. But if you don't have a technical background, that's what our program is for. That's what you should be, right? A person with a disability who doesn't have a technical background that wants to work and is willing to do whatever it takes to put in the effort to get there. And the CAP program will help teach that. So Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG is what it's called, or I say WCAG 2.2 AA. So you learn how to test, report, and guide the remediation of accessibility compliance against those standards. Those standards are important because they're evolving. As technology changes and updates, so do accessibility standards, right? So in 2008, when WCAG 2.0 came out, we didn't really have, iPhones like we do today. We didn't really have the GPS guided, step-by-step walking navigation. We didn't have, the augmented reality or, the kind of apps that we have today. Since then, we've increased those standards. WCAG 2.1 came out in 2018 and 2.2 came out in 2023. So as technology evolves, so do the standards. And that creates opportunities for us, right? Because as technology continues to evolve, we can continue to provide accessibility compliance services according to that. And because we're on the cutting edge, because we put people with disabilities first, I think that's why we're getting so much business. So that's how previously how you got into the industry was you already had a job, you got voluntold to do this, and you had to figure out how to get the certifications or these paper things that say that you can do the job. When I said paper things, I threw up some generous air quotes. Today, you don't need a degree. Today, you do need a certification. Today, you do need working experience. And today, you do need the technical chops because companies learn. Companies hire people for one reason, and that's to solve a problem. And a problem right now that they have is compliance, accessibility compliance against the Americans with Disabilities Act, specifically Title II, and Section 508 that requires public-facing assets. So any website, public-facing assets, essentially any website or mobile app that you can access as a public-facing, as a general person of the public-facing assets. If you can access it in the United States, it's got to comply with Title II under the ADA. And so now you need the certifications, you need that working experience, and you need to be able to prove that you've got the chops. So when you pass the first interview, you might have a phone interview or an in-person interview. The next step is a functional interview. Show us, prove to us that you can do what you say you can do. And companies started to do this because accessibility compliance is tough. Just getting your IAAP, your International Association of Accessibility Professionals, CPAC, Certified Professional in Accessibility Core Competencies. You might see this a lot. You might see this in job descriptions. You might see this as a requirement, and it teaches you nothing about digital accessibility compliance, right? Like how to achieve it, what the standards mean, how to test, how to report, how to guide remediation. CPACC just means you know how to talk about accessibility and the types of disabilities that might be impacted. It's the Certified Professional in Accessibility Core Competencies. It's not a web accessibility specialist certification. It's not a trusted tester certification. Those are more technical, but it still doesn't teach the skill of actually testing, reporting, and guiding the remediation of accessibility compliance. So you will have to prove yourself. You will have to know what's going on. And if you've taken some functional interview assessments and you didn't make it past that round, that's a clear indication. The feedback is you don't know digital accessibility compliance. You don't have the technical skill or ability to do the job to solve their problem, right? Companies hire people to solve problems. And one problem is accessibility compliance. So they want to make sure that you can actually help them achieve that goal to solve that problem. So they have functional interview assessments. So I don't know if anybody, I know this is a webinar format, and I don't know if we can raise hands or people can type in the chat. Um,
Hi,
is
Tanner.
it,
We have
yeah,
questions.
all
If
right,
that
let's do it.
would be next. So let's start first with the earlier questions. Is it possible to do this part-time? From Richard.
Totally, Richard. It's definitely possible to do this part time. But yeah, Richard, definitely you can do this part time. That's what our apprenticeship is. So you get trained, you get certified, you get those certifications. I'm going to give you a job after the CAP program. And in that apprenticeship, that is a part time role. So you would work with our clients directly, working part time. And the goal, that's really the starting line. Starting the apprenticeship is the starting line. You still have to develop the professionalism, the other skills and abilities about doing the job really well. And, Mary Beth and Ellie, I think are, great, can speak to this, much more authentically about, hey, now that I've gotten my certifications, like how much growth, how much opportunity there still is to learn, grow, and actually be ready for competitive integrated employment. I think battery's low, so let me figure this out.
I'm
Okay.
finding a way to. Okay. Mary
And
Beth. Okay.
so great question, Richard. What other questions we got, Rada?
Can you hear me? All right. Next question is, can you take these classes if you only have an iPad? Is there financial assistance for people who don't have a VR case? This is from Dawn. And
Yeah, Dawn,
mhm.
go ahead.
She said, I'm a disability rights advocate and started a website called Ohio Advocacy Heartbeat. Can I use this cert in advocacy? And a lot of questions. Or can you provide devices? Do you have to pay to be in this program? Can you do this course or training at your own pace?
Oh, these are great, great, great questions. Um, so my first recommendation is, well, first off, thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for your leadership. Thanks for working hard to make things better for people like us. Really appreciate it. Sounds like you're based in Ohio in the United States. The CAP program right now is only for people who are in the United States. Um, vocational rehabilitation. It is a vocational rehabilitation job training program, which is why we're focused on the United States. Programs like this don't exist in other countries, right? So we are so lucky, again, so blessed to have these opportunities here in the US. That's why we're focused here. So if you're outside the US, this program would not apply to you. However, the principles of what we're talking about in the program certainly apply. If you're outside the US, you want to get your trusted tester certification ASAP. Then you'll probably want to get your CPACC, even though I don't recommend, like, I think that's a garbage certification with regards to actual skill or ability to do this, yeah, to do this job. But it is recognized by the industry as like, hey, you're an expert now. And so if you don't have a vocational rehabilitation case, the CAP program, unfortunately, is not for you. We have tried to do personal financing and alternative methods of financing. We did this for about 4 or 5 different clients, and it never worked out. No one has graduated. And excuse me, one person did graduate. But it just didn't work out. And so we ended up having to shut that down. So unfortunately, you do have to open up a case, but it's a pretty easy thing to do. And vocational rehabilitation has changed in years. So if you have been in the game, in the VR game, as long as I had, when I got started back in 2005 or six, it is totally different now. It is client driven, client led. And there's a lot of other support mechanisms in place to make sure that your VR counselors are doing what they need to be doing. If you say, this is the job that I need, this is what I want to do, and this is the pathway to get there, I need this to get a job, they have to give it to you. And if they don't give it to you, then there's local disability law offices that can help you with this that are free, and other local agencies that help enforce the no. So it's not. DOR is the same as it's called different things in different states. Um, the question is DOR, Department of Rehab, which is in California, is that the same as vocational rehabilitation? The answer is yes. The same thing is true for the Commission for the Blind. It's called, different things. The most common are Commission for the Blind, vocational rehabilitation, or Department of Rehabilitation, or rehabilitative services, or blind services, services for the blind. Those are all the different, types of names for it. And yes, it's absolutely stable. The job is very, very stable. The market is growing tremendously. There's more and more regulations coming out. More and more people have to comply, even government agencies, different departments of like health and human services, and companies that provide services within these places. Like if you're an insurance provider, a financial company, if you're, you know, transportation company, if you are selling services or providing services in a regulated field, you are absolutely having to comply. And the new standards that have come out, the new deadlines that are ahead of us in 2025 and 2026 are putting a lot of pressure. And so that's why I say that the pan is hot right now for people who are blind or visually impaired to use this opportunity, this window of digital accessibility being so hot as an opportunity to get hired, even if that's not your ultimate goal, is to get in with a company doing digital accessibility and then laterally transition. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. So, but yes, it's definitely stable. It's definitely something that can be done part-time. It's definitely something that can be done full-time. It's definitely something that can be done remote or in a hybrid opportunity. Really depends on who the employer is. Most jobs in digital accessibility are remote. But if you wanted to make a lateral transition in the future, you would really need to think about returning to the office, at least be ready for a hybrid, 3 days a week, 4 days a week in office. That's the reality. COVID's definitely changed the way that we work as in terms of an economy and a U.S. workforce, but things are changing. RTO, return to the office, is real. And really that comes down to you and your needs, right? Like if you're immunocompromised or you have other I have multiple challenges myself, right? So I don't know if I could really return to the office, right? But I love conferences and I love people and I love getting out there. I'm not immunocompromised, but I do have multiple health challenges. I do have memory loss issues. I do have other issues that are serious health conditions that may make it really difficult for me to return to the office. So those are just things that you need to measure and weigh for yourself. But so let me dive into why I think it's really smart right now to if you've been struggling to find any employment and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get hired, your ultimate goal is to not work in digital accessibility. Here's why I think you should consider digital accessibility as a career path right now. One, it's so hot. No, unfortunately, the question is there any opportunities outside the U.S.? No, there's not. I'm sorry. I was just kind of describing that earlier, that this is only a vocational rehabilitation job training program. We've tried doing it outside the country. We've tried doing it personally financed or alternative financing, and it just hasn't worked. People haven't been successful, 20% of the time. I think 1 out of 5 have passed. And so it's just not been a good model for us. So unfortunately, if you're outside the United States, the CAT program is not for you. However, getting your trusted tester, getting your certifications, and following what I'm saying is a great opportunity for you. Even though it is a harder path. I admit that if you're outside the United States, it is harder, absolutely harder. Everybody in the United States doesn't few appreciate how lucky and privileged we are to be in the U.S. and to have these opportunities today as a blind person in 2025. Uh, they did not exist 10 years ago. So anyway, so digital accessibility is so hot right now, and especially in the local and state government agencies. Um, so let's say you get certified, let's say you get trained, and you get a job in digital accessibility. Great. That is the biggest barrier to employment, is actually just getting the job. And then if you can do something like where we, people who are blind or permanently disabled or relying on assistive technology, that's what I mean when I say we. If we get a job in a company or a government agency or any employer, once we've retained employment and substantiated that we can do the job, once we're doing the job, we can begin to communicate our goals to our employer and our managers and other people that work with us. Hey, I really want to get into human resources. I'm passionate about human resources because of this. What do I need to do for human resources? I'm looking for human resources jobs that are opening up and only available to internal employees. I'm looking at all the opportunities for HR. Min, rinse and repeat for a different field: project management, IT support, uh, finance, accounting, legal, paralegal, whatever the opportunity is that you really want. Right now, leveraging digital accessibility as a way to get in the door is super, super smart, because once you're in, you're in. And then when you're proving yourself, when you're creating equity, providing value, and showing the organization what you can do, that's really going to set you up for transitioning, making a lateral move inside the company. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get to some of the questions and see if Mary Beth or Ellie can come in and help you guys out.
Okay, so we have from Marianne. Her question is, I work 30 hours a week. How would this fit in to my schedule?
Mary Beth, you were working when you came through the CAT program. Do you want to take that?
Sure. It is an intense course, but I worked full time, 37 and a half hours, plus did this. And it took a lot of time, but it is possible. The classes themselves are usually held in the afternoon. I had to kind of make sure I was available, online for the classes. For me, that was the hardest challenge because the class time was just after I got out of work, and getting to some place where I could do this was my biggest challenge. But as far as being able to do it, it is possible if you are dedicated enough to put in the time, because it's not just the class and then the workshop, it's the homework, and there is homework. But doing the homework is what makes you a better tester in the end.
Do you think that's a little bit like math, Mary Beth? That like, hey, you got to do more and more problems, and the better you get.
Oh, it's funny you'd ask me that because, gee, what was my major? Um,
Math.
Math.
Wow.
I'm the crazy math person. Um, love numbers. Don't ever want to be an accountant. Let's be clear, not that much. But as far as, yeah, it builds. I mean, just like math in that regard, that skills build upon each other. You keep growing. You learn one thing and then you add to it and then you add to that and then it just keeps increasing. So that's why I said it can be intense, because there's a lot to learn in a short time, but it can be done while working. It is a lot of time involved because, my evenings and weekends were were doing, the classwork or reading or, whatever I needed to do, answering those um discussion posts and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah,
but yes,
and
it,
you're
it
really
can be
underselling
done,
it
but
too.
it does take time. You have to be prepared for that.
Just to brag on Mary Beth a little bit too, she traveled a significant distance to go to work. It was more. I'm so proud of Mary Beth. And then Mary Beth too. Do you want to talk about like coming through the CAT program, being an apprentice, and then like, you've done some project management work for us. You executed really well on that. What do you think takes? What do you think is required to be successful in this space? As a person who's totally blind, you're a Braille user yourself. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Um, I think if I didn't like it, I mean, if I wasn't passionate about accessibility, if I wasn't passionate about blind people being able to be part of, productive members of society. When I worked in the schools, I worked with a student with Braille. I mean, that was my job because it's all about communication. It's all about access. It's all, with the Braille, obviously, literacy. But for me, that's become a passion as I've gotten older, that these are things that are just like everyone else. We have the right to be able to access things, and it should be, and it's legally, it has to be. But that we all know when we go on sites, just because it should be, just because it has to be, doesn't mean that it is accessible or
Mhm.
usable.
That's
Yes,
awesome. Thank you,
I
Mary
can answer
Beth.
that one.
Go for it.
I- um, this class is more technical. This class gives a lot more practical
So
experience
the
doing testing.
the question was, just so
I'm sorry.
everybody
Yeah.
has got the
Yep. If they
context
didn't
for your
catch it.
answer. It was that everybody. The question was, is how is the CAT program different than the digital accessibility tester program at the Blind Institute of Technology?
And their course is pretty good. It's pretty bare bones. I mean, they give you what it is, and I have a friend going through it right now, so it's like, and it's pretty. And she's calling me, going, "Okay, I get this, but." So it prepares you more for the CPAC exam than they say. You can go into the digital access, but you wouldn't have the experience with all of the testing that we have to do in the trusted tester, and you sit two exams with the CAT program. There are no
Mhm.
real exams. There's a couple quizzes, or I've done BIT classes before, and they're not terrible. I mean, it gives you a good foundation, but as far as practical experience and practical knowledge, this is much more involved, but better prepares you for actual work. That prepares you to take another exam, is what that one does. And if you want the
Yeah.
CPAC, it's fine, but um, this is for an actual to get you employed.
Right. Looks like we got another raised hand.
Yeah, we have Adara. She's been racing since forever. Not really.
Oh, your digital shoulder must be tired. What's going on? Were you saying that right, Adara?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, Adara. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I had a question, but it's already been answered. Really, unfortunately, I do live in the UK, and the question was kind of answered. But if you're if you're outside the US, unfortunately, 'cause I would have liked to have joined the program. And take speaking, you've answered the second question. I wanted to ask, which was about the Blind Institute of Technology. And whether it was different to your program, and obviously the best way of going about becoming a disability tester. Because I started doing the CPAC. Unfortunately, at the time I couldn't take it for financial reasons. Um, it
Yeah, I'm
like I
I'm
said,
nodding my head. If
it's a
you're in the UK, I think
yeah,
the best opportunity would be the trusted tester. It's a
right.
technical certification. It is free. You'll need to get some sighted assistance to get through it. But we have,
Okay,
Mary Beth's got her TT, Ellie's got her TT. Everybody that works for us has their TT.
right. Okay.
That is
So
one of the
trusted.
exams that's required to pass the CAT program. So,
Okay.
but that, yeah, it is free. It is technical. It can be
Mhm.
frustrating, but you will get a good foundation of all the WCAG, the WCAG success criterion that they have that are currently the standard, and it goes through all of them.
That's good to know, because it can be quite, like I said, I've done the CPAC course, I haven't done the exam because it was.
It's not cheap, no.
Oh no, it's not cheap. No, it's not. And I've had a little trial tester of certain parts of the questions, and they're reasonably easy to answer. But those are the questions I really had. I was just when you said we couldn't get anything outside the US, can you take away? Like, oh no, what a
Yes.
question anyway. Just
Thank you, Dara.
Question. It's on the chat. Do you think it's better to be an employee of an organization to be an accessibility tester, or do you think freelancing is a better way to go?
Depends on personal need, preference, and what it depends on a lot on you as an individual. If you're talking about income opportunities, like, if you're crushing it in the freelance world and you can, secure those deals, then freelance is going to be financially more lucrative. However, much, much more difficult to do. It is, and especially when you're a smaller freelancer, you're not going to be, the Veterans Affairs, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, they are not going to be talking to you. They don't care. You have to be like
I was
a
able
real
to
good
unmute.
business.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the reason I asked that question was specifically around where subminimum wages are concerned, because I have been offered accessibility tester jobs in the past, and they only wanted to pay, $10 an hour.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's because they're a crap organization that's selling disability user testing as a just a way to it's a selling tool. It's not an actual functional tool. Oftentimes companies like that will put user testers wherever within the project testing cycle, right? Often up front. Hey, test this from a usability perspective, and which is ridiculous. The right way to do user testing is later, when accessibility testing, remediation, implementation has already been accomplished, and we're actually just doing quality assurance testing to, one, ensure accessibility compliance has been achieved, but two, to really maximize usability, because just because it's accessible doesn't technically make it usable. So that's when usability testing should have been introduced. So I know the companies that you're talking about, just like us, they advertise, try to secure people on Facebook and these other groups. And really what the community is doing unknowingly is hurting ourselves by doing junk work like those usability tests that are $10 an hour or $10 whatever per page. You got to think about, like, companies hire people to solve problems, and they value that problem at $10 an hour. So how much do you think is actually being, how much of that value is actually coming to the bottom line? Very, very little, if any at all.
Right. This specific one was we were going to do PDF remediation, but we had been told that blind people physically could not do PDF remediation. And so they said that the reason we could do so little was why they paid us so little. And I'm finished with my question now, but I mostly wondered, I assume that's not the right mindset to go into this with.
Mary Beth, what do you think about that? If you can come
Oh,
off mute.
sorry.
Mary Beth has
I know this because the grandbaby's squalling in the background.
Do you want to talk about some of your PDF work?
PDFs, yeah, thanks. You can, as a blind person, definitely test PDFs. Unfortunately, Adobe's, and you can run like the accessibility checker from Adobe or whatever, and you can run it. The problem is that their tool to actually remediate is itself not accessible. So it is, I hate to say true, but it would be an extreme challenge for somebody without sight to remediate a PDF. Testing is absolutely possible. Remediation
It was
is the
more
problem.
We shouldn't go into the mindset that we are worth less because we are blind, because we cannot do the same thing that the sighted people can do, because that is specifically what I have been told is, well, you can't go
Oh,
in and you can't do everything that our sighted testers can do because you're blind. You can't, you can't remediate PDFs. You can't test
yeah,
for
that's
color
because,
issues.
and that's not because there's anything wrong with you. That's because the tool is not accessible. So, that's that, and it's terrible that they have that attitude because it's not a person problem. It's a technology problem.
So then we do still deserve to be paid the full, what any other
Absolutely.
tester would make.
Yeah, so somebody, it might be a divided task. I mean, there's accommodations where I'll test it and somebody else take my results and remediate it. I mean, there's always ways around things.
Yeah.
And they may
That was
not be
my
up for that because they're
question.
like, well, we don't want to hire two people. We don't want to have somebody else have to do that. So that's why they're like,
Can you, Mary Beth, can you quickly just share some of the ways or reasons we built Dark Suite to do some of this site work and some of the ways that helps?
Dart Suite is that there are automated testing tools out there that'll pick up a lot of the color contrast or the some of the major things that can be found automated. Um, but when you're manually testing, it's harder to do that. Well, Dart Suite kind of combines that, where if you find a manual issue, we can log it into an audit sheet for the accessibility. And when it does this, it'll pick up the code, so that they know what actual code part of the page is being referred to. It'll take an image of the shot of the entire screen. It'll take another one of the area where you have indicated that the issue is, because you log the issue from the actual location. So it is picking up all kinds of information that helps developers work on this. I'm trying to think of everything that's in there. It gives you the snippet of code, the path. It gives all the environmental settings, like what browser are you on, what kind of device are you running, what kind of all that technical stuff that they like to know. It'll throw in the URL so you don't have to copy and paste it. It'll and then the how it's set up for your project can break it down into sections of the page, or what however your project is set up, where you can add all the information, like how do you get there, explain why this is a problem, what criteria from WCAG is being violated and how, and all that kind of information. And it just, if you've got the information and you know what you're doing, it doesn't take that long to log it in, enter it, and move on to the next. So
Yeah.
for blind especially, it really speeds up the process for logging actual issues, and it includes a lot of the visual images that sighted developers especially it helps them too. So
Yeah, I love it. And so just we got one more question and then we got to get going. But yeah, so we built Dark Suite because accessibility tools weren't made for, exactly your point, Phoenix. Accessibility tools were made for sighted people. And if we were going to compete as a digital accessibility company first, right, if we were going to win these contracts so we can create more employment opportunities for the blind, we needed a tool that was accessible for us. So we built Dark Suite, and we were running on it internally, and we brought in a new development team to polish it up, make it prettier and fancier and nicer and all these things so we could release it to the public. Because hey, shouldn't every blind person, you don't have to work at accessibility officer, but shouldn't every blind person be able to test, report, and project manage digital accessibility compliance end to end? We think so. And that's why we decided to release Dart Suite to the public. So yeah, in short, Dart Suite really boils down testing to the value of testing. And Lyft does a lot of the heavy lifting, cited lifting, like screenshots, code snippets, CSS, environment, so that you can test faster, report more accurately, and even do project management. Everything from, knowing what other people are testing. You can, we can see who logged what issue and when. You can provide comments on this. It is a complete project management tool for accessibility that just so happens to be accessible to screen reader users. So super proud about it. got one last question, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. I think it's Heather.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thank you for hosting this and answering all these questions. And my question, I do have my CPAC certification, and I think I agree with you. I don't know how well, other than just memorizing the guidelines and the success criteria. Having the actual work of doing testing, I think is really what's important. And I'm so excited to hear about your program. And now I do understand that you guys help with getting the trusted tester certification. And so part of that program, because I really don't know a lot about trusted tester, and I've been reading a lot of articles lately, especially on LinkedIn. Please, if you're doing accessibility testing, no HTML, no ARIA. So I was curious about your thoughts on that. If you guys touch on that in the program, if that's what if and anyway, that's basically my question is around HTML, ARIA, and just maybe what's involved with that, with the trusted tester certification. And then I'll go on mute so you can answer. Thank you so much.
Can I take this one?
Yes,
go ahead.
please,
Yeah.
Ellie.
Go ahead, Ellie. Good to hear from you.
Hi. So I'm one of the instructors for the CAT program. And so we don't technically teach HTML. However, we teach you effectively how to test websites. So while a lot of our students, most of our students, don't come into the program knowing much about HTML, about ARIA, you kind of learn through exposure. So when I started about a year ago, I had no idea what even a div or a span was. I knew nothing about HTML. But through the program, through all of that exposure, being exposed to the code, getting into the nitty gritty of how it all works, you do tend to kind of pick it up organically.
Okay, Ellie, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for, because again, with the CPAC certification, it's laws and things like that. So the trusted tester obviously is much more technical, and so you get much more exposure to that. It sounds like. Okay, thank you.
So the trusted tester certification is the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's certification that they give, and it's very technical. They very on rails. They will teach you the different criteria, how to test the different criteria. And then you're given a web page and they say, okay, for this specific criterion, does this test pass, fail, or do not apply? So that is very technical, like on rails certification. Then the CAT certification, the one that Tanner and our co-founder Heather have developed together, is a certification that kind of tests your ability to test websites in a more real world environment. So, can we give you a website and within a designated time period, can you find as many issues and properly document them? We teach you how to write up accessibility reports and document them properly for developers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I think Tanner had some technical issues, but on behalf of the accessibility team, thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Mary Beth, for chiming in. All those who ask questions. If you have more questions, please just message us on Facebook and visit our website, accessabilityofficer.com. And if you like this webinar or event, can you please send us some love and give us reviews on Facebook, or just email us directly. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Don't know